Good afternoon, everyone. Before we begin our lesson today, let's take a moment to center ourselves and start with a prayer. Please bow your heads and join with me. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Do not bring us to the test, but deliver us from evil. Amen. So, once again, good morning. I hope you all had a restful and enjoyable night. And I am excited to dive into a very interesting topic today. So, we will be discussing all about subject-verb agreement. So, are you excited? So, before we dive into our topic or into the lesson proper, I want to start our discussion with a motivational activity. So I will use an online claw machine named Picker to randomly select a student. So once a student name is picked, the student will choose a random object near them and explain its use and importance to the class. Well, I meant to incorporate this activity because this encourages active participation and enhances speaking skills by having the student describe his or her chosen item. So let's start. I will now wait a minute. So I will now choose the random student. Let's start. So the student that has been chosen is Benjamin. So Benjamin, it's your turn to choose an object nearby and explain to us its importance. So thank you for that very comprehensive description of that object, Benjamin. So let's proceed to our game time. So you will engage in a very fun and interactive quiz activity on quiz.com. So I created a quiz.com link for you to practice subject-verb agreement. So several questions have been integrated into the platform for you all to answer. So you only need to log into quiz.com, find the class quiz, and begin answering the question. So remember that it is important that you must pay close attention to select the correct subject-verb agreement. So I will be posting the link here. Okay, there you go. So I will be giving you only 3 minutes to answer the question because there are only 5 questions actually. So you are only given 3 minutes to answer the question. Okay, time is up. Thank you everyone for participating. So we have the students that got the highest score here. Congratulations to Kyla. Okay. For your understanding in order for you to understand more about the topic, I will also be showing you a video presentation. This is entitled Subject-Verb Agreement. So, of course, it is our topic. Okay, this is the video. I'm going to play the video right now.
Sina and Selena are walking in a park. They are busy in discussion.
Look, this man are running.
Yes, they does it every day.
But neither Sam nor his friends is running.
Amanda was carefully listening to their conversation.
Hi girls, how are you doing? Did you know that in your conversation, you missed out on some subject-verb agreement rules?
Okay, we were really not aware of these. We would love to know about subject-verb agreement rules.
Let us first find a place to sit. See, that bench is empty. We can sit there.
All 3 sit on the bench.
Let me tell you briefly. Well, if you are using singular subject, the verb will also be singular. For example, you said, This man are running. Here man is singular subject, but you used plural verb, are. This is incorrect. The right sentence is, this man is running.
Thanks. Now I know.
Similarly, Saina's reply is also incorrect. They does it every day. Here the subject is plural, so the verb will be plural. You should say, they do it every day.
Yes. Now we will take care of this.
Good. But I must tell you about another rule which you need to follow. You said neither Sam nor his friends is running. Selena, if we join two subjects with or, the verb must agree with the nearest subject. Here you should say, neither Sam nor his friends are running.
I will keep this in mind. Can you tell us few more subject-verb agreement rules?
When you join two subjects with and, your verb will be plural. For example, Saina and Selena are best friends.
We are really thankful to you, Amanda, for explaining the subject-verb agreement rules.
Let me tell you one more subject-verb agreement rule. If you use both, a few, several, and many in your sentence, always use plural verbs. For example, both of you are intelligent. Now I'm leaving for my tuition classes. Take care. Bye.
Saina and Selena were happy to know some of the subject-verb agreement rules. They thanked Amanda and came back home.
So what is subject-verb agreement? Well, subject-verb agreement is the grammatical rule stating that subjects and verbs must always agree in person, number, and sometimes gender. So this means that the form of the verb must correspond correctly to the subject it is associated with. So, ensuring this agreement is crucial for clear and grammatically correct English writing, as it unifies the sentence and makes it easier to understand. So the relationship between subjects and verbs is fundamental to proper sentence structure and effective communication. So for the basic description or for the basic definition, subject-verb agreement is the agreement between the subject and the verb. So how the subject acts when the verb is like this and how the verb acts when the subject is like this. So it's like vice versa. So let's proceed to the basic rules in subject-verb agreement. So the first one is if a subject is singular, then the verb must also be in its singular form. Add s, es, or ies to the verb when it is used with a singular subject. So these are the examples. So number one, Andres makes canes and buns. So as what we have observed that we only have one subject here, which is Andres, or who is Andres. So Andres is, since Andres is a singular subject, so we only need to use a singular form of verb, which is the makes. That's the reason why we added s to the make, to the basic form of the verb, because we only have one subject. So this goes the same with the second example. His father carries bundles of rattan every morning. So father is the subject, which is singular, and then carries is the subject, is a verb, which is singular also, because it has, or the basic form of the verb has been added ies, and the y has been replaced to ies. So for the third example, we have here the Manila Railroad Company follows the map carefully. So Manila Railroad Company is obviously a single subject. So what we are going to do is we only need to use a single or a singular form of verb. So again, to wrap up, like singular form of verbs are those who have s or who has been added s, es, or ies. So let's proceed to the next slide. So basic rules in subject-verb agreement. So this is the second one. This is for the plural. So if the subject is plural, means if the subject is more than one, then the verb must be in its original or base form. So if the subject is one or more than one, I mean two or more than two, well, our verb also must be in a plural form, which is could be the basic form, or without s, ies, or es. So these are the examples. So let's scan the first one. The supervisors assemble outside the office. So as we all know that supervisors, so as we all know, as what we can observe, that the subject in the first sentence is plural because the supervisor has s that made it supervisors. So we only need to use a verb in a plural form also, or let us say in a basic form. So we don't need to add s, es, or ies to it. So the same goes with the second explanation, or the second example. Athletes train regularly to be in the tip-top shape. So meaning that we have a plural subject here, which is the athletes, because it has an s. So we only need to use a basic form of the verb, which is the train. We don't need to add s. And then this also goes with the example number 3, which is the singers practice their craft as often as they can. So we don't need to add s to the verb, which is the practice, because the subject alone is singular, I mean plural. So let's proceed to the third slide. So this is a table comparing the singular subject and plural subject. So this is like translating or transforming the singular subject sentence into plural subject sentence. So let's proceed to the first sentence. So a poet explores beauty. So how will we change it to plural subject sentence? So we only need to add s to the subject, which is poet, so it becomes poets, and then we only need to remove the s in the verb, which is explore, so it will change into explore beauty. So in combination it will become poets explore beauty. So the same goes with the second and the third sentences or examples. So let's say for the second sentence, the theme touches readers, and when it is transmitted or when it is transformed into plural subject, the themes touch readers. So as what we have observed here, there are changes in the subject and then the verb. So the same goes with the third sentence, which is Robert Frost writes about farms. So if we are going to change it to a plural subject, since we cannot add s because Robert Frost is a name of a person, so we only need to add another name of a person, which is A. Robinson. So what will happen is Frost and E.A. Robinson write, so we don't need to add s to the verb because there are already two subjects. So Frost and E.A. Robinson write about farm. So the verb must also agree with the subject pronoun. So look at the chart below and notice how the verb changes. So in the present tense, the s ending s is used with the subject pronouns it, he, and she. So as what we have observed here, the verb read, or without s, or the basic form of verb, is only applicable to the pronoun I and you. But when we are going, this is for the singular subject sentence. If we are going to use he, she, and it, so we need to add s to the verb. So, but if we are going to use I and you only in our sentence, we are no longer allowed to add s to the verb. So when it comes to plural form, which is in the left side, as what we can see, if everything is in plural form or every subject is in plural form, we don't need to add s to it, because there is no complication or there is no confusions when it comes to plural form. So let's proceed to the next slide. So this is the next slide. So the chart shows or explains how the verbs be, do, and have can be used as main verbs or auxiliary verbs, and that these verbs are irregular. So the chart within the image outlines the forms of these verbs in different tenses. The image outlines the forms of these verbs in different tenses divided into present tense and past tense for be, and present tense for have and do. So here's the breakdown. So forms of be, the word be. So in present tense, singular, this is the singular subject or singular subject sentence. So singular subject, I mean I am, you are, he, she, it is. So it is shown in the chart. So for the plural, we are, you are, and they are. So for the past tense, singular, I was, you were, he, she, it was. So it was changed to was and were because it is already in the past, or happened, it has already happened in the past. So for the plural, we were, you were, and they were. So from are, it was changed to were, and from am and are, it was changed to was and were. So for the forms of have, present tense, for singular, I have, you have, he or she, it has. So there is a difference between when we are going to use the pronoun he, she, and it will become has instead of have. So for the plural, we have, you have, and they have. So they all have the word have in it. So for the forms of do, so present tense, singular, I do, you do, he or she, it does. So this means that if we are going to use he, she, and it into our sentence, we are no longer allowed to use do only. So we need to add es to it. So for the plural, they are all the same. They have the same verbs. So we do, you do, and they do. So this chart provides a handy reference for ensuring proper subject-verb agreement when using these irregular verbs. So these are irregular verbs. So let's proceed to the next slide. So a question problem here. So this book, blank, poems by Robert Frost. So which do you think is the correct answer here? Okay, you are right. So the correct answer here is the word contains. So that's all. Let's proceed, or let's continue. So for now we are going to move on into subject-verb agreement rules in special cases. So for rule number 1, when both subjects connected by or nor are singular, then the verb to be used must also be singular. Conversely, when both subjects are plural, then the verb to be used must also be in plural form. So this is the example. For number 1, an athlete or a singer practices regularly. Since we are only using here singular subjects, like an athlete is singular and a singer is singular, and then they are connected by or. So we are only allowed, or we will be going to use the singular form of the verb, which is the practices. So the same with the second one, fruits and juices sell well in the summer. So since we have two subjects here, which is the fruits and juices, so meaning that we are going, since both of the subjects are in plural form, so meaning we are also going to use plural form of verbs, which is the sell. So that's for the rule number 1. Let's proceed to the rule number 2. So if the correlative conjunction either or, neither, nor is used, the subject closer to the verb determines the verb to be used. So again, the subject closer to the verb determines the verb to be used. So here is the example. either Mark or the class representatives are going to the meeting. So you might be wondering why we use are here. It is because our verb here is the word are. So which of the subjects here is close to the word are? So it is the class representatives, and knowing that the class representatives is plural form, the reason why we are going to use are. So that goes the same with example number 2. So neither the singers nor the trainer is going to perform later. So upon analysis, we know that we have two subjects here, which is the singers and the trainer. So the trainer is the closest one to the verb, which is the is. So that's the reason why we are going to use is instead of are. If the role were switched, let's say the trainer nor the singers, that's when we use the word are, because the singers now is the subject that is close to the verb. So let's proceed to the rule number 3. So a compound subject joined by and generally has a plural verb. So examples, these are the examples. So the first example is, if I had to explain, it is basically a simplified form. So when two subjects are joined by the word and, they usually take a plural verb. So let's say, for the example, Andres and his brother are going to the basketball court. So Andres and his brother are two people. So that means we are going to use the plural verb are. So we are going to use a plural verb for that. So the same goes with the second one. The flowers and the trees sway with the wind. So the flowers and the trees are two things. So we use the plural verb sway instead of using sways, because as like what I have said, they are two things. They are two different things. However, if the two subjects are seen as single unit or pair, they take a singular verb. So let me say, for the example, rice and fish is Jose's favorite breakfast. So as we all know that rice and fish are together considered one meal. So what we are going to do is we are going to use a singular verb, which is the is. So the same goes with the second one, which is bacon and egg is a staple in American breakfast meal. So bacon and egg together are considered one typical breakfast items. So we are going to use the singular verb is. So this helps to show whether the subjects are seen as separate items or a single unit. So that's the function of the rule number 3. So let's proceed to the rule number 4. An intervening phrase or clause, or a phrase or clause that separates the subject from verb that does not affect the subject or the subject-verb agreement. So in this case, always pay attention to the subject to determine the form of the verb. So for the example, we have two examples here. The leader of the protesters raises his arm. So leader is the subject, as what we can observe. So the verb we are going to use is in a singular form because there is only one leader of the protesters. So the verb raises agrees with leader even though of the protesters comes between them. So that explains why it does not change the need for the verb to agree with the subject. So for the second example is the siblings who the crowd saw inside the office make their way to the court. So siblings is the subject and the verb is make. So the verb make agrees with the siblings even though who the crowd saw inside the office comes between it or between them. So the key here is to identify the main subject and ensure the verb matches it, regardless of any additional phrases or clauses in the sentence. So for the last rule, which is the rule number 5, the following indefinite pronouns use verbs in their singular form. 1. Anybody, anyone, everybody, everyone, everything, nobody, no one, somebody, someone, something, and each. Those were indefinite pronouns. So The following indefinite pronouns, on the other hand, use verbs in plural form are both, few, many, several. So here is the example. Again, this rule will help you understand which indefinite pronouns take singular verbs and which take plural verbs. So those are indefinite pronouns. Again, let me classify it again for you all to understand. The indefinite pronouns that are allowed to use verbs in singular form are the one, anybody, anyone, everybody, everyone, everything, nobody, no one, somebody, someone, something, and each. So those are the words that are allowed to use verbs in their singular form. However, on the other hand, the indefinite pronouns that are allowed to use verb in their plural form are both, few, many, and several. So here is the example. One of the brothers is with the Manila Railroad Company. So as what we have observed, our subject here is one, meaning that we are going to use a verb which is in a singular form. And the same goes with the second example. Everybody loves ice cream. So everybody is singular, meaning that we are also going to use a verb that is in the singular form. So plural indefinite pronouns. So these are the plural indefinite pronouns: both, few, many, and several. So example, both of the canes are clean. So both is a plural, meaning that we are going to use a verb that is plural also, which is are in the sentence. So for the second example is several students were absent. So several is plural form. It is also accompanied with the word students, meaning that it is obviously in plural form. So we are going to use a plural form of a verb also, which is the word were, as what we can see in the sentence. So indefinite pronouns that can be either singular or plural. These pronouns can use either singular or plural verbs depending on the context. A prepositional phrase often provides a clue. So like all, some, any, most, and none. So these are the indefinite pronouns that is allowed to use a singular verb form. So these are the examples. Most of our world is within four walls. And it can also be used a plural form of the verb, which is the are. So for the second example, most of the poems are very short. So those are the examples. Now, the point of this rule is to help you choose the correct verb form based on the indefinite pronouns and the context of the sentence. So that's all for the rules of subject-verb agreement in special cases. So let's proceed to the activity time. So you will start by reading the text titled The Maranao Tribe from Lake Lanao. Then you will be given sentences from this article, and your task is to choose the correct verb form to ensure subject-verb agreement in each sentence. So the exercise will be available to you through Google Forms. I will be posting the Google Forms in the Google Classroom later. So once you submit your answers, your scores will appear on your screen, which I will be recording later. So make sure to pay close attention to the subject-verb agreement rules we have studied. So I will be giving you, after I posted the link of the Google form, I will be giving you only 5 minutes to answer the question or to answer the questions that were given, and then I will also be recording your your scores after the class. So now I have already uploaded it. Time starts now. Okay, for the evaluation part, well, you only need to write a short paragraph about Christmas with at least 5 sentences that show correct subject-verb agreement. So you have to underline the subject-verb agreement that you incorporated in the sentence that you will be writing. So here you only need to describe the atmosphere, activities, and traditions of Christmas. It could be based on your experience or the plans that you will be having this Christmas. So you need to express the overall feeling of the holiday also. So I will also be giving you a 5 minutes for this activity. So after the time stops or after the time finished, you all need to submit your paper, or you only need to submit your answer in the Google Classroom. I will be posting material later for you to where you are going to upload your answers. So the 5-minute time starts now. Okay, thank you for participating in our class today, class. So that's all for our class. That's all for our discussion. Now, for you to enjoy your vacation, your Christmas vacation, I am no longer giving you an assignment. So that ends our discussion. Thank you for participating and thank you for listening.